Hey folks, this is EJS from thriveality.com, and it's my passion to share and distill the very best of the best in helping us all be vibrant, vital, and alive in body, mind, and spirit so we can fully show up in life and be the best version of ourselves. So, what if you could carry your own personal tuning fork of sorts that invited and encouraged your body back to vitality, optimism, and awareness? Well, that is exactly what I have experienced since using Leela Quantum's technology. I've been able to reduce several supplements and medications. My energy's up, and life is unfolding in many positive directions. Now, to be fair, it's not the only thing I've integrated into my recent health protocols, but I take copious notes, and these products have been nothing short of transformational for me and my wife. So if this resonates, you'll find the podcast today with Leela Quantum founder Philipp Von Holtzendorff-Fehling fascinating on how subtle energy can help transform us in body, mind, and spirit so we can all be the best version of ourselves and fully show up in life. Philip recently started Leela Quantum, which features products for humans and pets that can help us mitigate the effects of modern stressors and catapult us to new levels of wellness. This has been an area of intense interest for me for several years, and using Philip's products since late April, combined with other subtle energy work, has allowed me to greatly reduce, as I said before, supplements and medication. In short, these products have been fantastic additions to our health and wellness tools. Philip, who originally is from Germany but currently lives with his wife in magical New Mexico, where they work together to bring healing and expanding awareness to all people open to this work. Leela Quantum is growing leaps and bounds due to the tangible benefits everyday people experience from these products. So I really hope you enjoy this interview and podcast with Quantum Philip, as we call him here in my household. Thanks. Hey folks, this is EJS from Thriveality, and I am very excited to have Philip V, or I call him Quantum Philip, around our house from Leela Quantum to talk a little bit about his history, how he got involved and interested in subtle energy, and the unique work he's doing at Leela Quantum. So, Philip, welcome to the show.
Hey Eric, I'm glad to be here and thanks for having me. It's an unusual situation here, for everybody out there. Just know I'm usually not doing these in the car, but we had a complete Wi-Fi outage in our neighborhood, and that happens if you live almost off the grid. And now I'm like 20 minutes away, in front of a gas station, and we're just doing it here. So
Yeah.
it all
Well,
works.
well, thanks for making the effort to drive to a gas station to find to find Wi-Fi so we could do this. So awesome. Well, let's dive in. If you could just start off giving us a quick overview of your background, where you're from, a little bit about your work history. I think you used to work in the telecommunications industry. How you pronounce your last name? I was going to give it a shot. I thought I might botch it. And then how you sort of became interested in this whole field of subtle energy.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that question. It's Von Holtzendorff-Fehling, by the way, and you almost pronounced it better in the test run than I did.
Thank you.
So I'm from Germany originally. I was born and raised there, and then um, very early on, I traveled to different countries, but was in the U.S. already for half a year when I was 19, and then I had actually tears in my eyes when I flew back after that half year was over, because I had such a great time, and it felt like very connected to this country from my heart. And I literally had tears in my eyes when I flew back. And then a few years later, I went back for another half year, and then went to Germany again. And when I met my wife, then I found out that she had a similar experience, that she's from Germany too. She's actually half Turkish, half German, and she had been in Oregon in high school for also like half a year or something, and she had tears in her eyes when she went back to Germany. So we kind of figured, okay, we fell in love, and we're going to figure something out also to get to the US, because that feels home for us,
Wow.
which was kind of an interesting thing. So I've never really told that story publicly, but that's how that happened. And so, things then manifested in a way that we ended up in the US again. That came through my career at the time. So I was someone that really had totally forgotten about subtle energy, about what's behind the physical, even, almost cut off all my feelings that I have. So I was very, very brain focused, and that was my dominant, you know, way to get through life, right? So I was always interested in sports, so I did all that, but I could not allow these thoughts that there's more to it because I had completely forgotten that. Now, in the early 2000s, really, it started that to ripple in me a little bit, that I was like, there's really more to it. And I started to search, and I started to do yoga. I started to read certain books. I started to meditate and things like that. And, then if you're suddenly searching, right, then so happens that you're meeting certain people or encountering certain events that even help you on that path to even, find kind of like the next level of that. And on that path, I also met my wife then, right? That was in
Mm.
2005. And so my wife was the opposite because she was born not with all this forgetting. It's actually, she had never lost her conscious connection to the divine, if you will,
Mm.
or however
Mhm.
you want to call it. So she could see aura. She could see already as a kid, when people lied or would not tell the
Mm.
truth, and all this. Like she knew things and she could see things. And yeah, and then she had also a mother that actually was very into meditation, alternative health, and all of that, whereas my parents were the absolute opposite, right? And so I think for her, having been born like that and having had that support also in the family on that level was amazing. And now that helped me quite a bit to actually accelerate my process of finding myself again. And that's really the story. And so all of what I had started already with my search process at the time, things I connected on an intelligent level, I started to then experience deeper and deeper. And I started to, go into shamanic workshops. I got trained in past life regression work, and, on and on and on, actually several energy healing courses that I went through to actually, yeah, remember these things and train myself. And that it's, and I was really frustrated for many years in between because I had this wife who could see all the energy and everything and notice everything, and I couldn't. And I was like, I had so many blockages that I felt from my heart that was the right path, and I knew that these things are right and they felt right, but I couldn't really like see these things. And that was a big frustration for me for a long time until I gave that up and also realized everybody has their own
Yes.
perception on how
Mhm.
they think. Because, I was like, I'd always try to see things, or and it really doesn't work that way. And at some point, all that shifted for me where, now if I work with people, which, that's not really my main job, but every now and then I still do, and we do some webinars, I can see it all. Everything that I need to know in that moment or see in that moment, I do. And, and I realized at some point, okay, I actually had to go through all this experience because now I know how it is if you're there and you can't see or feel energy. And now I can maybe help other people by that can relate to that. And I understand if people don't see that, and I can possibly be of better guidance than someone like a Roman Hafner, for example. I'm not saying I'm of better guidance, so don't get that wrong. But in that specific aspect, I may have an experience that is very valuable that Roman Hafner doesn't have because he always saw
Yeah.
everything and he never was in a situation where he had forgotten who he is. Okay, that was a long
Yeah.
intro now about this
No,
story,
I
but
mean,
that's how it
there's so much
happened.
to unpack there. I mean, I kind of hear this notion of remembering, right? Which I think enlightenment to some degree or consciousness has been described as a process of remembering. And I think that really resonates, for me, right? It's like, oh, as I've gone through, my own journey and had those epiphanies, it's like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm becoming who I always knew I was innately I could be. That kind of thing. Yeah, this act of remembering. So um yeah, well, thanks for sharing your journey of just how it was an evolution for you. And then I think what I also heard is that you just kind of let let go of trying to be sensitive and seeing some of these and perceiving some of these things, and it just showed up. Did I get that right?
Yes, pretty much. So I made a decision then to just, follow my heart with these things, that I, do what I feel in my heart, and that I, don't try to be like someone else or see like someone else.
Hmm.
And when I gave that up at some point, and I just kept digging, kept working on getting rid of some blockages, at some point this really opened up. So, and it just came on its own. And yeah, certainly also with the practice, right? And that's something that, people tend to think, okay, there're just like a few of those people that can see aura or that can really do energetic healing or something like that, but we all have this capability. We can all do that. And so, and that's actually an interesting thing, right? So if we can all do that, okay, so why don't we? And then the reason is because we, first of all, don't believe we can. Second of all, the whole world is just dancing around other stuff
Yeah.
rather than that.
Hmm.
And we don't dedicate any time to it. And people would like to be awakened, right? They, like, oh my God, that'd be great to be enlightened. And then, they want this sudden enlightenment. I walk across the street and suddenly, I know everything. That's not how it works. It may
No.
work for a couple people like that, but it really is rather a process. And enlightenment is also, I would describe that also as a process. And there can be multiple steps and levels of enlightenment. And hey, it actually is a sort of a difficult path, because the
Mhm.
more you walk that path, you you're you realize how that you're responsible for what you create in your life, and you take responsibility for things, and it can be somewhat painful
Yeah.
sometimes.
Mm.
But it's
Yeah. I've noticed as I've become, more aware that you are all of a sudden confronted with radical responsibility, right? You really have to own everything that's going on, right? There's no blaming it on your parents or your job or the political system or whatever, right? Like you have to take radical responsibility. And then I think the other thing that's really sort of been coming home for me is this notion that really we're really all connected, right? And so when you get that, I think, and I believe that for a long time, but when you really see that and perceive that on a different level, then I think ethics really take on a different hue. Like how you treat other human being really takes on a much more at least for me, that's been my experience. It takes on a much more tangible, like I don't want to do something unethical because it ripples, right? uh
Yes,
yeah. So.
absolutely. And then the other thing that makes it sometimes hard is that, because as you're walking this inner path, how I call it, you encounter one layer of the onion, you know
Hmm.
as you move along, right? It's like you're peeling your onion, if you will, your own onion,
Very much so.
until you arrive at the very core. But then even if you arrive at the core, there's still like onion layers to peel, in a way. And those, whether it's a trauma or it's like some behavior or belief systems that we used to have, that we then at some point encounter, and that it's not helpful, or that it's something that has really dominated some of our actions in our lives, eh, we then kind of can transform it and go through it. Thankfully, the time is shifting now. We have to way less go through stuff. Like 10 years ago when we did sessions, you know people had to really almost like relive that stuff in order to transform it. Now it's like you can do energy work so much quicker and people can release so much faster. But still, it's sometimes you end up at a point where like, oh, this hurts, right? This hurts, and we have learned that if something hurts, we shut off, or we cut it off, or we just go somewhere else, with our consciousness. But that's not really how we can really get deeper into ourselves. So as we encounter it, starting to realize it's there, to respect it, and then to transform it, that's the way to go. But that is part of the pain as well. But
Mm-hmm.
behind that pain, there's real freedom that's waiting, and
Mm.
real healing, yeah.
Yeah. Well said. And I think some of the terms that you and I are using might be unfamiliar to some of the listeners or people who might, watch this on YouTube. So this notion of subtle energy or quantum or ether or 0 point can sound a little woo-woo to some people. And I think at one point in my life, I certainly would have said, here's my woo-woo card. Yeah. So how can you put it in terms of ordinary experiences, right, that would help describe subtle energy for those not familiar with the term?
Yeah. So I don't want to come up with a scientific definition right now, because that's something that, people can't really relate to. So how about feeling that energy? So if you're just, if you're at home listening to this and you don't really have an idea what we're talking about, why don't you maybe now or at another time just go within yourself, just close your eyes and feel. And you've meditated maybe before, so in this meditation you're accessing more of your knowing. You feel that after a while, that you feel almost an energy around you, and that is that type of energy that we're talking about here. So you can access that, and once you do that, actually your actions afterwards will come much more out of your center than otherwise, because often we're just so distracted with stuff, and then we're really just thinking about a problem in our brain and then doing something because of that. But if we are doing something from within, it, it comes from that source, and that source we can access, and that's energy. We drink water, we breathe air, we eat food, but we need that energy to exist. And and that is the type of energy that we're talking about. And it's hard to describe. We had a whole
It's very hard to
podcast
describe.
actually the other day about it. And we may not even be able to describe right now scientifically what this energy is, but we can scientifically show and prove what it does. And that's a very common scientific process, actually. And so, yeah, you can feel that energy. Others can see that energy. We need that energy, and that type of energy has certain results and effects on a physical level and on an energetic level that can be measured.
Yeah, I've often described it to people, and I think you were banging on this door. And I read it in a book called The Power of How by Tom, and I can't think of his last name. But if you sort of close your eyes and you go into your mind's eye and you notice the space between your thoughts, there's this kind of lively presence that undergirds everything in the world. And that's this world of, I think, subtle energy we're talking about. I think more tangibly, though, sometimes you feel the negative of this, like after two people have been arguing or fighting, right? Like let's say you just
Yes.
walk into a room and you just feel the anger and the frustration. That's, I think, a good tangible experience that people could relate to. That's the same thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. So we have
Yeah.
multiple examples in life where we encounter something like that. We kind of forget about it, but also we go into a room and it's a great vibe there, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
there's maybe
Exactly.
a table of people that were like, oh, there's something going on, and then there's something else, and we don't know any of these people. They're like, oh wow, this is like a welcoming energy. So we do,
Yeah.
because we can feel it, but we don't notice it, and we're not, it's not, there's no practice behind it to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it just takes years of experience. Homeopathic remedies would be another good of this. I think getting
Yes.
out of the city and into nature, right? I know when I drive from the city to the country within an hour, it's like, oh, things feel a little bit calmer. Cool. So how has your personal journey informed how you became interested in this work? And how has it informed how you view the world and stages of human development?
So I think really the story that I told initially of my past is probably the biggest piece of that, because I've learned things that I didn't know before or thought that even don't exist, and I know how hard it is to get there, or how hard it was for me to get there. And now times have changed, right? It's way easier than 20 years ago, and way easier than 10 and 5 years ago now to develop. You can do that so much quicker because it's the time for that right now. It's really the time for people to wake up. And we've come across the ability to create these tools that can help us on that way, to be so supportive on that path, to get there quicker, to solve issues in an easier manner, and all of that. So that is the one area I think where that comes from. And the other one is, my wife had the chronic Lyme disease, which for her was actually a great teacher. She was diagnosed, it was already going on for 5 years, and then chronic Lyme disease, you can't heal it, they say, but she's gotten rid of it. Like, she does not have it anymore, like, at all,
Yeah.
and not even any symptoms of it anymore. It took time, and yes, maybe she's also in a special situation where she has things to her disposal, but still, like, if you have something, you need to work through it. And that was for me something where I started to really dig into, okay, what alternative health options are there? Like, what are the things that we could do? And I was like on the mission to find stuff that could help her.
Yeah.
So that was the other driver, I think, that got me there.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And part of my, my mission and my passion is to help people with these chronic, Lyme mold conditions. Because they just take people out, right? And you can't function, you can't think, you have no energy, and you're in a minimum of 25 grand, right? Just to, and then it takes years of stumbling around and trying to find what works. And they typically bounce from practitioner to practitioner. My own journey, I didn't have,
Yeah.
I had Bartonella has been my primary teacher, which is typically and often a Lyme co-infection. And yeah, it can be tougher to treat than Lyme. Some physicians will tell you. So I get it, and I really resonate with that. So let's shift a little bit to your company, Leela Quantum. How would you describe Leela Quantum and the mission, and start to segue into what your products do?
Yeah. So it's a conscious business. So we try to really approach it from the perspective of helping people. So we try to do our part to help heal humanity,
Hmm.
right? Again, whatever we can influence, and that's what we're trying to do. And we try to be conscious on that path. So one of the things we do is, like, for every order, for example, we plant a tree, because it's just something we want to help with
Hmm.
the whole environment. And here I'm not talking about the climate change stuff. I can let other people talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to go into that argument. I don't see it that way. But it's still great if you can plant trees, because that is
Mm-hmm.
something that, aside from any political agendas, that is something that is great for this place Earth here. If we can plant trees, so that's a good thing in many ways. And yeah, we try to create products that help people, but also animals, and to some extent plants as well, to come back to their full potential and have the tools at the disposal to get there. And
Yeah,
that's
that
basically what the products do, because the products like the quantum block and the infinity block, those, the energy of that invites you into your own completeness and
mm,
supports you on that path. That's really what it does. And it does that with every living organism. If you're in that field, you're invited to, really thrive to your full potential physically and energetically. And it doesn't mean that instantly you're there, because that's usually not how it works. You can
it
have
doesn't work that way.
instant transformations and instant downloads, possibly. I mean, that those things happen, but it just helps you on that path. And my analogy usually is that we're all, riding a bike on a dirt road, and that's our life, right? So, we meet people, we have accidents, we have rain in between. So it's just the walk of life, and we learn stuff, right? And then we try to arrive at a certain point, which may be then our awakening, our true potential, or what we're here for, to realize that and fulfill that. Then suddenly there's someone about 50 yards away, saying, hey, just why don't you come over here? I got a new Lamborghini here, and it's actually here on an Autobahn. You could just hop in and do that. And it's the road, the Autobahn is going into that exact same direction, same destination. So you're walking over there, getting into that Lamborghini, and then you drive. And of course, you're going to be much faster. You're more comfortable. You can encounter more things more quickly. And yeah, you can have a flat tire and all that kind of stuff, right? So it doesn't mean that you're not going through bumps and challenges. No, not at all. You'll have probably same challenges, but you'll get through them way quicker and in a better way. And that's one of those analogies that I've come up with to explain, okay, so what can this energy do for you?
mm. Yeah, that's helpful. So just to parse this out, then you've got categories of products that work with humans, plants, and animals. Correct?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
mainly, for humans, indeed, and but you can use it for products, obviously, too, right? And
Hmm.
for groceries and all of that, which in return would then again have a benefit for the people. But we do have, you can use it for your animals as well, and apply them for plants. And then we have specific frequency cards, and there we have one that is specifically for cats, one for dogs, one for plants, and the rest of them are various ones for humans. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just for the listener who's got on the video or YouTube. So this is a example of one of your cards, right? So this is almost like a business card that's made out of brass that you imbue with certain frequencies. This particular one is sleep and rest. So I probably don't want to hold this too too close while I'm doing a podcast, but this is just for a visual. This is what one of the products categories are, where you have a series of these cards that are imbued with different. I almost call them like tuning forks. To me, that's what they. Oop, I lost your video there for a sec. There you are.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So there's the cards, right? And then you've got this baby right here, which is
That's
the
the
infinity block.
Yeah, so that is the most powerful version of this technology, and it can be upgraded. So if one has an infinity block package, it can be upgraded. So it wouldn't. This is the basic
Yeah.
level, if you will, and but as we move along, we can then upgrade it into even more concentrated fields. So yeah, that is the actual technology, and we use that technology to charge and make these other products that we offer, like those capsules or those cards, water bottles, etc. Just with the cards, it's very unique because the frequencies that we come up with, we do that together with the healer network. So we work with some of the most exceptional healers together that have really amazing gifts. And so for various use cases, we create these frequencies. And then with that technology together, we charge that frequency onto one of those cards, add the pure quantum energy, and that energy boosts the frequency out. so that our system, when we hold it, when we have that card in our pocket, it our system can leverage it and benefit from it. And people usually feel it. Like, I mean, there are various cards. It's like a healer for your pocket. It's like a little
Hmm.
healer for your pocket. That's how I call it, because it doesn't work like something that you always have to have in order to, fix this issue. No, it's actually something that helps you and supports you with one of those use cases. For example, inner peace. Like if you have an inner peace card, it really promotes the inner peace. It helps you in any situation where one may have some anxiety, stress, panic attacks, fear, whatever, to various levels. It doesn't need to be very extreme, can be very extreme, but can be also very low and subtle even, right? And it would always help with that. But it does help us also in the long run, because it kind of helps train our system to recreate this feeling of inner peace on our own and access that space within us, and to expand it within us. So it is something that helps us move along and develop, actually. So
Yeah, it's interesting. So I started with the Heal capsule, which I'll pull out, and I think I started with this in April. And this is just a brass device that you can unscrew, and then you've got these titanium. They're kind of hard to see on the screen, but there's just these little titanium spheres. So there's 5 of them, and you can adjust, depending how many you need. But I've been carrying around all 5, and between this and the Infinity Block and the DNA capsule, I've been noticing, as I think I shared with you, sort of in our little sound check period before we recorded, is that I'm needing less and less adrenal and thyroid and supplement support, right? As my body is sort of taken in these energies to be able to integrate them. It's pretty exciting.
that is awesome, and I'm glad you're sharing that. So that's so great, because there's different groups, right, of people. There are actually some groups, because of the Heal capsule has these frequencies of a specific biobase mix included. It's about 76 or so different minerals, vitamins, and organic plant extracts that are vital for the human body. Actually, researched over the last 30 years by several scientists. They've come up with this amazing mix. But we have the frequency of that. And there's a group of people that seem to not need any supplements anymore after they've really worked a lot with this frequency, and they still maintain optimal levels. And then there's another group that I'm part of also, is that we still take physical supplements. We can take less, and when we take them, it's just ever so more powerful,
Mm-hmm.
like as if the bioavailability and what the cells can leverage and absorb significantly increases. So that's how I notice it too. So it's great. Yeah. So, and you're like almost in between, right? You're probably taking still some supplements, and others you've been able to reduce or even not use at all anymore. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of somewhere in between, or probably in your camp. Like I sense I still need support in particular
Yeah.
areas, but I'm finding I need less in some ones that were I couldn't function. Or I'm exaggerating, but I didn't really feel that great if I didn't take them, and now I'm just like I've stopped like all beef adrenal. Like I just don't take it. you know and about a year
Awesome.
ago I was taking 3 a day, which is at times which is considered like a max dose, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty profound. Now, to be fair just to clarify for listeners, that's not the only thing I do on the energetic front. Like I think I shared with you, I'm doing biofield tuning, which will hopefully be a whole other podcast. But I think it just makes this point, is that this field of subtle energy could be very profound. um, Okay, so you've got basically the Heal capsule. Is there anything else about the Heal capsule? Because I think this is a great place for anybody to potentially start. Is there anything else about the Heal capsule that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, so the Heal Capsule indeed is a great way to start because you can use it in many different ways. Obviously, during the day, if you just wear it, it helps. It contains also the primal human healing frequency and then the primal healing water frequency. So the basically the source code of the water of the healing water is a part of that as well. And where our body is to a very large extent water, right? So it just has an amazing benefit, and that healing frequency that I mentioned is actually that activates the inner healer. So you could also translate it as it activates your self-healing abilities, your self-healing mechanisms, and so on, because the body is originally designed to heal itself. So it can really heal itself, doesn't need anything else. And we can do that with our consciousness. It's just because of the way we live our lives and the way the world is, it's we've forgotten that on one end, and it's also been made very hard because now we deal with bad water, bad food, bad air, EMFs all over the place. So
Hmm.
we have all these constant external factors that make it harder to be conscious and also make it a lot harder on the body. So the body constantly needs to fight toxins, free radicals, all that kind of stuff. And it's then occupied with that. So that specific frequency reminds us again of this innate ability, and it therefore activates this inner healer. So you know we can develop that over time, and it's not an instant thing. It's something that you know can be rapid with some people. So we've had some very rapid positive responses with that, but I always say, don't expect this to be a 1 or 2 day thing. It's just something, you've unlearned it over decades, possibly.
Yeah, you have to peel the
So
onion.
now don't expect that overnight you'll all remember that. It depends where you are in your life. Like, I mean, if someone is already extremely conscious, lives a pretty healthy life, then it can go way quicker. But someone that is way on the other end of the scale, it may take way longer for that to internalize and to ripple through.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I think so. I've had the Heal capsule since late April, and it's definitely been an unfolding that continues. So the next one that I got after that was this here, right? The infinity block. So talk to us a little bit about the infinity block, what
Yep.
it does, um, and how someone might incorporate that into their life.
Yes. So you can just have it sit at home, and then it basically, what it does is pretty much an energetic feng shui. That's how you could describe it, then that
Hmm.
people relate to it. It basically harmonizes, neutralizes any and all um, potentially harmful frequencies, and EMF is part of that. So what does that mean? So your Wi-Fi is not going to be cut off because it doesn't block EMF, and it shouldn't, right? So if you're at home and you want to work, you want to be on your phone, but once you have that energy around, it transforms that energy in a way that it's not detrimental to your physical body anymore and to your energy system. It is actually rather supportive. So, and when we measured that, right? So, because we knew from the beginning, okay, even if we can see what it does, we want to put a real emphasis on studies. So, we want to have proof, scientific proof of that these things work. And
I lost you.
are exposed to EMF, their heart rate variability.
Hey,
Uh,
Philip, you dropped there for a second. I
oh,
lost you
okay.
for about 10, 15 seconds. So I forget exactly where you were, but you were just talking about.
About EMF and
Yeah.
studies. So
Hmm.
we have had different institutes and doctors' offices that tested and studied our products and actually also certified them. And you can measure the heart rate variability, for example, and see, how that actually gets worse, a lot worse as you're exposed to EMF. And then you can test our products, you give it to the people that are exposed to EMF, and then you can keep measuring the heart rate variability. And in 100% of the cases, um, um, a significant bettering of the heart rate variability was achieved. So that is just one of those tests. Then we had another institute that has an advanced decavol method that they test, and they also did EMF testing, for example, but also lots of other testing. They've also done just the test of a whole family that has no infinity or quantum block at home, tested them, and then they put that device into their home, and then they tested them again, tested them also each of the following days while that device was in their home, and then they removed that device again, then did tests again. So yeah, we have scientific proof that these things work and have a positive impact on the bioenergetic system, actually even on the blood, which has been shown in dark field microscopy studies. And yeah, so that's just one of the things. You have it sit at home, and it provides this great energy field, and it actually resonates with the human cells already, so you kind of feel uplifted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you people may relate to this, that sometimes you just crash, you have just such a bad day and you're just crash so deep, and you're like, it's a very depressive state. And so with such a field at home, you still crash, because I mean, that's life, right? You have bad days, you have good days, and someone dies, you crash because of that, and you're sad. Things happen, but it doesn't let you crash like so massively anymore. It's always as if there's like a little cloud that's carrying you a little bit. So that's how I can describe it as well. But then you can do very specifically other things as well. You can put your hands, your feet, or other body parts in it, for example. And yeah, it's been reported quite a lot. We talked about the dark field microscopy and the impact on the blood, but people have reduced pain with that. They can actually see development way faster when let's say they had knee pain. That we had several people actually with a knee or elbow pain over many, many years and couldn't get rid of it. So that helped them significantly, even to the point where some of them reported in the group, it went away instantly after just a few minutes. So again, it's very specific. Everybody has their own story. So don't expect, you have pain, put it in, and that's gone. That's really not how it works. It's a different level. It's a different concept, but it does seem to support and accelerate these healing processes for sure. Then you can actually charge products with it. So you could take, um, you know, rocks or crystals, for example, and charge them with it. And people that work with crystals know that sometimes you have crystals that are somewhat dormant or not really, they don't shine really,
Mm-hmm.
don't have a great energy anymore. And that means they're not at their full potential. And you can put them in, and just already after 30 seconds in an infinity block, the quantum block would take maybe 2 minutes or so. They're at their full potential, and you can literally feel that. And you could take, let's say a watch. You just take a golden watch or any other metal watch, you put it in, and afterwards it'll be imprinted with pure quantum energy, which you can sense or feel or notice in it having a much higher vibration. So it's much finer and higher in vibration. And even people that don't see energy and all of that, they usually see a difference. For them, it may just look more beautiful, right?
Mm.
Because they don't have this view. But people that are more sensitive to energy, they can feel this higher vibration. So you can do that with objects in your home, whether you have a little Buddha statue or something, put it in, and then that'll vibrate also that energy. So these things you can do, and then you can also copy frequencies, but that's easier with a quantum block. So let's not get too much into that, but in theory, you can also copy each and every frequency that you want and be your own homeopath, if you would like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've put like metal coffee mugs in there,
Yeah.
food, water, things like that. And it does, I can feel it. I can feel the difference. For copying frequencies, if I were to disassemble, I don't want to get too far afield here, but if I were to disassemble this down to just one plate, would that be equivalent to a quantum blocker? Or is it still way more powerful?
No,
It's,
no, it's a great idea, but it wouldn't work that way just because it's a completely different level that it operates on, and it's not the same.
okay.
It's not just because of the plates; it's the way also the plates are charged. So it doesn't really work that way.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to get stuck on that. Let's move on from, so that's the infinity block. So the DNA cell protector. So I got this a week or so ago, and holy cow, if I wear that, if I carry that around, with my heel capsule on, and I wear it after dinner, good luck falling asleep. So describe for us what this does.
Yeah, so I need to be mindful with this because
Yes,
some of
please
the
do.
things we just don't publicly want to talk about. But we've we've developed this over a 6 month period. So, and this is a true masterpiece. We've had actually some of our healers involved. Yeah, actually, all the best healers that we work with in this process, and it's been also tested with various individuals over this 6 month period, and also optimized along the way. And the original reason for that was, the jabs, because we first of all heard from a lot of people the concerns about it, and then we could literally see the difficulties that come with that. So it was originally actually intended to help people that uh, would get that, and to ease the side effects, neutralize side effects, etc. But then, obviously also the ones that didn't get it, that are concerned about shedding and all of that. And that was the main reason why we developed it. It turns out now that we call it the DNA and cell protector, because it really protects your cells and your DNA and signals to your cells that they are the full consciousness, and that they have the full strength to not need anything foreign, and that they can, yeah, basically withstand any of these influences, and be in full power. That's kind of the frequency. It's a whole mix of that. So totally unrelated from this, it helps the DNA and the cell anyway. So didn't we have this would still be a great frequency card to have, because it's a wonderful support, right? But it so happens that in the current times, it provides support on that level as well. And yeah, we're pretty happy with that. We try to not
Yep.
market it too much, really, but
No,
we know
I
that
mean, I'm
people
just,
have great effects with it.
yeah, I mean, the mitochondria call the shots, right? That, and to have healthy cells and healthy mitochondria, you could do everything right. I think that's been one of my experiences. But if the mitochondria are confused due to stressors, right? And I think you alluded to this earlier. We have a ton of modern stressors, from mass-produced food, poor drinking water, and then I think non-native, man-made EMF is a huge challenge. And could you comment a little bit about how it assists with, maybe just, I think all your products help with EMF, but is there anything unique about this one in terms of EMF
So
mitigation?
yeah, no, this one is not specifically designed to mitigate EMF. All of our products help with that, but certainly, where the impact is on a cell level typically, and possibly even on a DNA level. So it does provide support. So from our perspective, you don't really need anything else. If some people are very sensitive though, so they need to test it for themselves if the cart will be enough. But we have certainly more options. Someone like you that has heal capsule and then that card at the same time, I mean, there's really nothing to worry about. Whereas we have found out though that wearing the capsule and the card is too much for the people that had gotten this, so they should just have the card at least for a few months, because the system is then really, really, it's under huge stress. And it seems that less is more in that
Mm.
situation. So that cell and DNA support is absolutely designed and to help these people. So that's what those people should be focused on. But again, everybody's a little bit different. We can only provide general guidance. Ultimately, it's always the wearer and the person that can feel that with his or her own intuition. So there's it's not never really black or white. I mean, there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Is there any like words of advice for someone that's using the DNA card for the first time and they may be sensitive for various reasons? Like, should they only use it for half the day? Like what's some guidance there, if any?
No, not really, because that's really, it's not going to be too much at all. Like the card is never going to be too much. You could literally use it day and night. But my recommendation is to just feel. Okay,
Mm,
so because you may, so just feel. Hey, and if you feel it's good to wear it throughout the day and not at night, and then maybe switch it up at some point, go ahead and do that. But yeah, you don't need to worry about that being too much of an energy.
okay. And then the last couple that, and then there's certainly more we could talk about, but I had recently at the same time I'd gotten the DNA, I gotten the abundance card. And this one was very tangible for me. It was, and it was like I just felt like it was more than just everything was going to be okay, but that there was enough. That there's just a sense of, it's called abundance, but I don't know how to describe it. Like, but it was very tangible, this shift in just my awareness that, you know, the world is
I think you
abundant.
described it perfectly. So I'm
Yeah.
actually glad that you noticed it that way, because that's really what it is. So it's about inner abundance. And most of us in some way or another, we have deficits within us, certain gaps where we feel we need something in order to be full or filled or be enough, right? We
Hmm.
need love from someone, we need food from something, we need always this intake in order to fill something within us, right? So but that never helps, right? Because it's never going to fill us. No love from the outside is ever going to fill our need
Hmm.
for our own love within, and no chocolate in the world is going to fill us up either. So it's all these things are not going to fill us. It's just temporary fix, that we just feel better temporarily.
Hmm.
So the solution is really to fill us up from the inside and to, reduce these deficits that we have, and that, can happen through childhood experiences or what have you, right? I
Conditioning.
would almost call it, yeah, and everybody has that in one way or another on some level. So, and this frequency is designed to fill these gaps with ourselves, right? And to create this notion of, yeah, we are enough, and I'm good enough, and I have everything I need. I'm filled up, so that we don't have this need to get something from the outside. And then that's when it starts shifting, because then we invite abundance into our life. We don't live from a point of deficit. And what does that, right? So if we have a deficit here and we live from that, even though we may not consciously notice that, we invite deficit into our lives, which could manifest in financial deficits and lots of other deficits. But as we're filling ourselves up, there's no need from that to come from the outside anymore, and then we can live our life from the inside in a completely different way. That's really how it works, and it's so cool that you notice it that way. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it was very
that's
tangible.
really awesome.
It was very tangible, and I am, facing a situation where I might be, out several $1,000s, and I'm not freaking out. so, so we'll see how that unfolds. And I just got the prosperity one today, so I'll keep you posted on how that goes. But you've also got ones for testosterone for supporting men, and then my wife has the women's booster. And I will just say, we've been on those a little over a week, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm over emphasizing it, but they're very tangible. These are very tangible, powerful tools for health. So thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and by the way, so the women's booster, the men's booster, and the testosterone booster, which testosterone for men, but also for women, actually has become much more of a topic, right? Because it's it's something that over time we've lost these testosterone levels, so we have
For sure.
significantly decreased testosterone levels,
Yeah.
and it's actually something to pay attention to. So but those have been developed by K. Elmer. I mean, the frequencies, they're not etheric frequencies, but they really are molecular frequencies derived from super high premium supplements and other substances that help with that. And in I think in regards to the testosterone or men's booster, way over thousands of dollars of supplements that actually went into that to create these frequencies. Obviously tested the whole best combination of that. But so that's an interesting that you are mentioning that, because K. Elmer really is a tinker who just tries to combine the best substances to help with that. But yeah, then taking the frequencies of that with our technology, we charge it together then in the infinity block, and then create this card from that. So yeah.
Yeah, they're uniquely powerful, and I am I think, as you mentioned, testosterone and general hormone support is really a challenge because we have so many false estrogens in the environment from all the plastics, right? So I think these are important tools. I've done a lot with supplementation to support that area, but I think having this energetic component to marry with that can be a great tool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Um, all right. So I know we're approaching an hour here. Definitely want to be respectful of your time. I think you've touched on man-made EMF. We've talked a little bit about sleep, stress. Um, Maybe one area of topic that's near and dear to me is the mold and Lyme topic, and I know we've touched a little bit on it. Again, I don't think these things are miraculous. So if you're a listener and you're dealing with mold or Lyme, I've had these technologies in my house for a month now, or several months now. I've definitely noticed an increasing, and I think one of the things that you've talked about is sometimes ideas will just come to me like, oh, I should try this, right? So it's not saying it's a complete answer in of itself, and you're going to have this for 2 days and you're going to feel like Wonder Woman. It doesn't work that way. But for those dealing with these complex health issues like mold and Lyme, any comments or anecdotal things you wanted to share?
Yeah, so obviously we need to be mindful also there, because certainly our products are not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent any
Right.
disease. However, you know, we don't need to look at specific diseases, because your overall wellness improves, and we can see that it has a positive impact on the blood. It has lots of other positive impacts where it neutralizes the impact of whether it's toxins, heavy metals, EMFs, herbicides, pesticides, those frequencies. That's what it helps with. So it provides a general support for your body's wellness on an energetic and on a physical level. So from that standpoint, we can't comment on a specific disease, but you can see general improvements that you can then probably break down to any such conditions. And we have also anecdotal testimonials, of course. So I'm happy to talk about those. And there's actually has been quite a lot about Lyme. So we've had several people that reached out to us and said it's amazing. There's this one person, actually, she had a quantum block, which is not as strong as the infinity block. And even with the quantum block, they felt are almost in she had chronic Lyme disease almost instantly, an increase in energy level, fatigue would go away, her interest and curiosity in doing things and the ability to actually do things increased significantly. Um, Lots of other issues that kind of decreased. Then at some point they upgraded to an infinity block. The journey kept going. So they're just like, oh my god, they're such they love these products, and they're so happy, and from the bottom of their hearts they're thankful for that, and we're thankful that they've been sharing their story, and we have other people where that's been noticed. And there's this perspective of Roman Hafner, who's one of the healers we work with. They call him the wunderkind in Europe, because he's really extremely special. He says that limes can't withstand an environment where the vibration is so high, and then this energy of the infinity block, for example, that you're creating an environment which is just so good and so supportive, life supportive, for the physical system, that limes just can't exist anymore there over time, which kind of you know makes sense. We can't say that it is that way. It's not been scientifically tested or proven. So by no means we can make that claim. So we're not making that. That's his perspective, how he sees it energetically. And now it's because of so many testimonials that we've gotten, and Roman's perspective. We're working on a study actually in order to get this further tested and verified in regards to Lyme patients. And certainly that would be wonderful if we can find specific data. But we're working on other studies as well. So we haven't done anything with mold specifically, and I also haven't heard any testimonials, so I can't say anything about that. I do know though that from some people that I've known from the past, that impact of mold has then results in certain health issues that you can also get through other toxins, for example. And yeah, obviously I can restate what I said initially. If you can improve your overall well-being, and give that a boost and activate your inner healer, yeah, you may be onto something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I recently read a book called "Healing is Voltage" by Dr. Jerry Tennant, and basically his theory is that as you increase the cellular voltage in the body, right? So it's actually healthy is a negative, so it's negative 25 millivolts for an average healthy person, and then if you're like a world class athlete, it's probably negative 35. And he says, basically as you increase your cellular voltage, right, then the environment is such that's very inhospitable to unwanted, friends, if you will. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think one of the things I would be very curious to explore with you is if we could find a tool, like he has a tool to measure cellular voltage, or you could measure the circuits. So basically the acupuncture meridians, and see if if they got voltage. So it'd be another study to possibly do where we could measure that, and just to see if there's a before and after increasing the flow.
I would definitely be very interested in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And you and I are working on that Lyme study. So with our friends. So definitely keep moving that forward. Awesome. Well, Phillip, I want to honor your time here. As we wrap things up, you guys have a lot of products from, water bottles to clothing, to the Heal Capsule, to the cards, to the Infinity Block, the Quantum Block. Top 3 favorite, where people could get started, and where do they find you?
So certainly our favorites is the actual technology, which we make available to everybody as well, the Quantum Block and the Infinity Block, because we didn't want to just keep it for ourselves. I think it's good in a decentralized fashion that everybody can get it. That's certainly the ultimate. That's if you feel drawn to this, if some people just know instantly, yeah, this is what I need, this is what I want, then that's certainly the great product. But a lot of people certainly, they need to get their feet wet and first see, hey, how does this really work for me? Maybe you need to experience it first, then that's a bigger investment, certainly. So then people should maybe start with the heal capsule as an example. Or if they have like a specific issue, just scroll through our drop down menu in the shop of the frequency cards and see what frequency cards we have, and maybe you relate to really one of those things that you're trying to work on, whether it's inner peace or something else, and then just try that one. Those are really good products to begin with, and to feel the energy, to see what it can do, and yeah, then go from there.
Awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about the individual, right, and how this can benefit us, but I am super curious about the collective, right? This notion of, community, and we've seen a ton of political and societal polarization. And how could this technology, or what could it do on a city, state, or country level, so folks really see we're all in this together?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I remember that you actually also mentioned David Hawkins at some point,
Hmm.
and his scale from 0 to 1,000, the different consciousness levels, right? And it's that's what's happening on Earth, right, amongst humanity. This increase in consciousness level over time, right, where you can see in the world that consciousness really increases over time. And it's interesting. I just saw a group of people that all measure that on a regular basis, actually, in various countries and in the world, and they saw that it started to decrease again when COVID hit. And it was very interesting, and it kept going and kept going until now. It's really bouncing back, and so because we're all connected, right? We're definitely not all the same. I think that's some bullshit that's being misused on a political basis, that we're all the same. We're not. We have the same source, and on that level, we're also the same. But here, we're all very, very unique, and we have our own fingerprints. We have our own stories, our own things to work through, and there we develop our consciousness. But we're all connected, right? And then if a lot of fear gets into this field, obviously fear blocks so much, and it also lowers consciousness. And throughout that time, obviously a lot of fear has been put into that field, right? And people were stimulated in order to produce that fear and put it into that field. Yeah, and now it's really bouncing back hard, right? Because
Hmm.
these are things you can just temporarily kind of like stop the raising of consciousness, or delay it in a way, but you can't really stop it. And the infinity blocks and quantum blocks, they raise the consciousness wherever they are, because we got those tested now, basically, because we found out that a lot of people actually are familiar with this David Hawkins scale.
Hmm.
And so some scientists that has been measuring these actually tested the consciousness level of the quantum block and the infinity block, and then actually also our fourth generation infinity block. And for people that are familiar with that scale, I know you are, the quantum block was tested, I think, at 562 or 572. The infinity block, the basic version that you have there, 733, which is already quite a lot.
That's a lot.
And now the infinity block fourth generation, 942.
And when you say fourth, yeah, that's really high, because the top of his scale was 1,000. So, right, I think.
Yes.
So that when you
Yes.
say fourth generation, so I bought this in May. So would this be
So
or are you talking about the upgrade process, which we haven't really gotten into?
that's the upgrade process. So if one has an infinity block package, and we can talk offline about it, but if one has an infinity block package, you basically get 2 infinity blocks, and then whenever you feel ready for it, you can upgrade one of these infinity blocks, and it becomes the so-called second generation, and it'll be 7 times more powerful than the one before. And so 7 times more powerful means it has 7 times more quantum consciousness levels That's not related to the David Hawkins scale now. But it also, on that scale, also increases because it's a much more concentrated field, much higher vibration, and so on. And you can keep going actually infinitely. So you could then upgrade the other one in this higher one, and then that becomes the third generation, which is again 7 times more powerful and more capable than the second generation, and so on. And then that's how you derive at the fourth generation, which we're currently using in our home. It's nothing that we recommend to do too often or too fast, because we're in this world, we always want the fastest, the strongest, and right now, but it's not the best idea, because this energy is very powerful, and we want to give our cells the chance to keep up with it, and also our own consciousness level and all of that. So usually we feel intuitively when it's the right time for the next level, and that's how it can be done. So yeah, but
Awesome.
that's how that works.
Okay. Yeah,
But coming back to your question now, because it then raises the consciousness level of the whole area it's in, right? So the infinity block has a large radius of a kilometer even. And certainly it helps the people that are around, right? It helps the trees, helps the whole environment. Actually, it helps, like if there had been some negative stuff on the land where an infinity block is now, I don't know, maybe there was misuse or something bad, or someone killed himself or something, that is bad energy, right? But so that can be now that the infinity block just like erases that. It kind of like cuts through that, and it's gone energetically. So it helps with that. And then ultimately, the more people work with these devices and raise their own consciousness level, and also the consciousness level around themselves, obviously helps the total collective. So yeah, definitely, I think a great support in addition on that level.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to ring my city with a bunch of these, but I know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and obviously that the more people have that, the more that's happening. And I want to mention one important thing though, because that some people may think, okay, so what if bad people get such a device, and could they misuse it? And the answer is no, they can't. So there are devices out there that is like, I would call it like Tesla technology. There's a couple companies out there that work with that, and they have some great results. They don't share their technology openly, because it also could be misused. And but then also, you're as a user, and you're not getting the benefit of actually being able to use it. Our technology is not like that. It neutralizes everything that is potentially harmful to consciousness as well as to physical organisms. And so it neutralizes all of that, and it is supportive and underlines everything and amplifies everything that is life supportive and consciousness supportive. So something that is positive and negative, I try to not use these words, because there is no, we don't try to categorize in that, and it's really not, because something negative can be also positive, but there's harmful and destructive, and then there's life supportive, and yeah, those are the two categories. And the life supportive, consciousness, physical organism supportive, that is what is being supported, and everything harmful and destructive is not supported. So you could not use a fear frequency, for example, and copy that in the infinity block or broadcast it. You couldn't do it. It just falls through. But if you have unconditional love or inner peace in there, yes, you can broadcast that. You can multiply that. You can amplify that, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And it's really good to know that there isn't, you can't use it for harmful, purposes, and to propagate fear, for example, which we've had plenty of in the past 18 months.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this helps to actually neutralize it, right? So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Philip, where can people find you and your amazing technology?
Well, on the website leelaq.com, that's always worth a visit to take a look. And then we have a YouTube channel. It's called the Quantum Power Channel, where I provide videos, and sometimes I invite some guests also to talk about certain things. But the main is really our private Telegram group. You're welcome to share the invite link with your audience, even
Okay.
though it's a private group. People that are really interested in this and come through these channels and podcasts, and they're more than welcome, because it's a great group of people, super nice and kind, and we share a lot of information. You can ask any questions about these topics that you have, and you'll get answers. And then you find me there too, so I answer questions there too. And then if you want to reach out to me personally, you can click on me and send me a private message. Sometimes it takes me like 2-3 days to get back, but
Yeah.
I always get back. There's no message left unanswered ever.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. I think that's how we got acquainted, was through Telegram and your channel. So awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This has been fascinating. I'll certainly get this posted out here soon. So Philip,
Thanks so much, Eric. It was great.
yeah, really awesome. Thank you. Hey folks, so if you're curious about giving Leela Quantum products a try, some tips from me on where to get started. And by the way, there's a link down below in the show notes where you can get 15% off. So I started with the Leela Quantum Heal capsule in late April of 2021, and I noticed effects, you know, right away. Right, so this basically contains frequencies for healing and energy. And I found, and there are spheres that go inside. It's kind of difficult for me to take them out and show on a laptop video recorder, but basically these little spheres you can take in and out, and there's you can put up to 5 in there. I typically put 2 in there, and that's plenty. I found if I was leaving 3 or 4 or 5 spheres in there, particularly as the day went on, it was a little bit too stimulating, and sometimes might even interrupt sleep. So that's how powerful these products are. But again, the DNA, excuse me, not the DNA, but the Heal capsule is a great place to start. A fast follow behind that would be the DNA and cell protector, right? So this is inviting the DNA in the cells to be in optimum performance and to release toxins and things in the environment that no longer serve the body. And then the other one that I really like is the Leela Quantum testosterone booster, and my wife has the female booster, and we both really like these products. So those are some tips on where to get started. They have great explanations on their website for the different frequency cards that they have that you can carry in your pocket or in your purse. And hope you'll give it a try. I've found these products really transformational, and so dive in and enjoy. Thanks.